everybody. Welcome to another edition of Gaming Golf. It is Masters Week. We've all got our green on in one way, shape, or form or another there. We are all there 2019, although we didn't run into Jeff because he was very busy and we were blind apparently, so it's okay. A lot to talk about though. It is an exciting week. Let's jump right into it here. It's the last major that we've seen, and now it's the first major of 2021. It's considerably different. Jeff, I had you on Sirius XM today. We were talking how the conditions will be quite different. The greens will not be super soft and receiving. They already are talking about how they're a little bit harder. The weather will be a little bit different. We will not have minus 20 as a winning score.
I don't think so. I would not take that bet. I think the Masters, back to its traditional week on the calendar, back to more traditional course conditions. It's going to be warm. It's going to be sunny. I always say it's going to rain once sometime before Sunday, no matter what the forecast predicts. It just always seems to happen. But I would look for firm and fast around I would look for the greens to be as they always are, just so delicate and treacherous and pretty incredible to see on television, and just the rest of the course to just generally be firm and fast and just kind of more of what we're used to seeing out of a Masters week.
Yeah, I think so too. Scott, what sort of scores do you expect this week?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more in the normal kind of April range. I think that for the most part, if you're doing stats or trying to research, I throw out November. I think it's going to be a completely different tournament than it was then. I would use past stats, but I'd kind of toss out the COVID year stats in there too. And the interesting thing is that in addition to the rain that Jeff mentioned, it might be a little windy too. There's reports of some gusts on Friday and Saturday, some 10 to 15 mile an hour, and then some 20 mile an hour gusts. That could really change the course a little bit if it's playing firm and fast, and you get some wind. Suddenly there's different kind of players that could thrive in that. So I think weather and kind of when guys tee off on Thursday and Friday might play into this, especially on DraftKings if you're trying to stack some tee time and stuff like that. There's an interesting strategy angle to that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. So do you want to try to find the late golfers Thursday, early golfers Friday? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I probably have a couple lineups where I do that. It's always a little dangerous, though, because Jeff mentioned the rain. If you suddenly get rain that pushes everything 3-4 hours, then suddenly those tee times flip, and you've picked the wrong guys. So I don't do it with a bulk of my lineups, but I might have a couple in there where I take all early guys on Thursday or something like that. Maybe try and avoid some late wind on Thursday or something like that. But I think it's one of the things you maybe pay more attention to as it gets closer. We're at Tuesday midday kind of now. Maybe look Wednesday night and kind of shift a few lineups to some tee time stacks if it looks like it might really be advantageous to one time or the other.
It's one of the things that you never thought you'd have to think about before you started doing DFS golf, and then you hear about it every single week now. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
About that there. Jordan Spieth won last week, the Valero, bearing the lead, but he always has a pretty good track record here at Augusta. Not here, but at Augusta, where they're playing this week, obviously. Do you want to get a little Jordan Spieth in your lineups this week? We'll start with you, Scott, this time.
I mean, I think the interesting thing about Spieth is that pricing came out on DraftKings for the Masters before Valero ended. So I think you see him probably $1,000 less than he would have been had they done it kind of in the normal timing. But they obviously got big contests out for the Masters. They got the Millie Maker this week. They want those entries to start to come in before that ends. And Spieth at 9,400 is going to be insanely popular. So popular to the point that I'm probably going to be underweight on him this week.
Underweight, but not shutting out, right? Sorry, Jeff.
Probably not shutting out fully. I want a few pieces there. I mean, he's just playing so well for the price. But there's a lot of guys in the 9s. There's a lot of guys in the 8 ranges I really like, and I think that I probably will not have a higher percentages as most people will.
See, I think sometimes, and I lean often on my journalistic roots when placing bets, and never is it more apparent than Masters Week, where you have all these great stories converge every time. First week of April, you've got so much all kind of like leading to this. Spieth, is like the cherry on top. The fact that he won last week, it proves that he's back. I mean, an on-form Jordan Spieth was the first 5 times he played Augusta, he didn't finish outside the top 11. And even the last couple of years when he was drifting, he still made the cut. So I think it's very hard to leave him outside of a fantasy lineup. Especially the daily fantasy stuff. It's just, you want to root for him anyway. Why go against this? Why root against what's happening right now? I think I think I just think he's a good bet this week. I think in pools, like in the Classic, this is a different format to discuss, but in the office pool where you're going to pick 5 golfers from different buckets of world rankings, if you get Jordan Spieth as the 38th player in that pool, which is, maybe the third bucket or third member of your team, that's an auto pick for me. I mean, that's just, you got to just take him. But I just think it's a fun story to watch, and I would never fade a player whose confidence is peaking heading into Augusta, let alone someone like Spieth's track record. So there's a lot of guys that are tempting on that same price range on DFS, but I will probably be overweight Jordan Spieth picks this week. And I just, it's one of my favorite stories to pull for. It's fun to watch, and I think it's coming together at the right time for him.
We're coming off of Easter, so I'm going to be overweight, period. But I got that going for us. But no, I hear you. And it's funny to see, like, trying to play game theory there, whether if you're playing a cash game versus a tournament. I mean, I think that makes a big difference too. Cash game, I have no problem being overweight on a guy. Just fine. If everyone uses them, if it's the free square, you take the free square.
And I think the key is that if you do take him, then you just have to be different somewhere else. I mean, you don't want to fade all 6 of your slots on DraftKings. You don't have to do that. And like, as we get lower, we're going to see some guys going to be really high percentage in the 7s and 6s also. So I think it's like one of those things. If you take Jordan Spieth, then probably you don't take Corey Connors, who's vastly underpriced. Maybe you go someone else in that 6,000 range. So I think if you do take Spieth, you just got to make sure you're a little bit different elsewhere. Because I mean, the point is, if you're entering a tournament, you're trying to win or finish in the top 10 where all the money is stacked, and you need to be a little bit different in order to get yourself up to the top there. You probably need to hit on something different. But some people do that, and they want 6 guys at low percentage. And I don't think you want to do that. Guys are high percentage for a reason. You just got to make sure you're different somewhere, not necessarily everywhere.
Let's talk Corey Connors for a second there, because Jeff and I were talking about him on SiriusXM today. 6,900. If you use any sort of optimizer, he's going to be in all those optimizer lineups, including RotoWires. But here's the case against Corey Connors. He's not a good putter. Of all the putters in the field, he's third worst in putts per round at 30.0 putts per round. I mean, in Augusta is a place where you need to putt, right?
Well, you need to do everything at Augusta. I think the one area where putting stats can be a little bit deceptive at Augusta is that you can make up a lot of ground on putting just by hitting it close. And Corey Connors' putting stats aren't great. I believe iron play has been one of an area where he's been able to hang his hat a little bit. And I like the fact that he's got a top 10 now in this event under his belt. It was the November Masters, but top 10 is top 10. I think Scott, you picked him for the Valero last week. I mean, he's had a good year.
Yes.
He finished 14th last week, I think, at Valero. So I think at that price, when you're talking about building a DFS team, I think he's going to get a lot of action there at the price that he is now.
I think he comes in the most popular under 7,000 for sure, and top 5 overall most popular in the field. I think you always get some guys at the top that will be popular. I think Spieth will be probably the most popular, but I think Connor is among, say, below 8,000. I mean, he's just mispriced. He sticks out like a sore thumb at 6,900. I ran the model I run, using the stats for this tournament. He came in 5th overall in the whole field. So and I do that over the last 36 rounds, and top 15 the last 3 tourneys, finished 10th in the Masters, as Jeff mentioned. He's gained 4 more shots, tee to green, in 8 of his last 9 tourneys, just hitting the ball great. Jeff, the Erickson, the point about putting is true, and putting here is one of those things that experience matters. But he has played here a couple times now, so I like that. I just think he should be probably 8,200. He's 6,900. It's just such a price that sticks out.
His betting odds are pretty good too. At least I'm looking at golfodds.com. That's where I usually go. I mean, I don't know about the various individual books, but 100-1 seems like a pretty good price too.
Love him at that. He's 80-1 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that if you're gonna go, we'll talk long shot bets later, but among the guys over 50-1, he's certainly one of those guys that can actually win this tournament.
All right, so we've gone 9 minutes. We haven't talked about Dustin Johnson yet, the defending champion. Did the whole enter and then withdraw thing last week at Valero, didn't play. He's 8-1 where I see him, and you might have some other odds there, so we can talk about that. But obviously, he's not cheap. You're going to have to pay a pretty penny for him. 11.5 on DraftKings, most expensive player, I think. So where are we? Are you going to spend up on Dustin Johnson this week?
I probably am not, and it's not. It's really just because you got to pick. I mean, you got to pick your spots. You can make a very strong case for just about everybody in the world top 10 right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have them all. And it just, odds are it's very difficult to repeat in this event. Certainly if DJ puts a green jacket on DJ on himself on Sunday, I don't think anybody would be that surprised. But it's more of a hunch as much as anything. He hasn't been playing that great this year. I mean, he did, he got into match play, and then he didn't get through the second round. Then just kind of like he pulled out of Valero to get ready for this. I lean to some other spots in the top 10 of guys who just, it feels like their time is now and they're peaking right now as a tiebreaker. But certainly mixing in Dustin Johnson, if you're going to set multiple DFS lineups, I'd sprinkle him in.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a couple of guys in the top 10 of the players in the world that I really like this week a little bit more. But I want to ask you guys before we do that, since we're talking top 10, where are you guys on Rory this week?
Right out.
Man, I just
rooting for him.
I'm out. Yeah, I think I'm out, and maybe it's almost like maybe this is the time to get in. Like it's the classic Mickelson bet of like just when you think no way. That's when Phil would pop up and win the Masters or win a British Open, or he has a little bit of Phil in him, especially lately. But I don't know. I think he's a little farther off this year. That it's more than just a slump. He's kind of let us, as he does, being candid, and he's one of the best interviews in golf that he's opened himself up and admitted that kind of the Bryson DeChambeau effect, chasing those yards, has had on his swing. So I don't like picking guys who are going to the Masters driving range searching for it. You got to have it when you walk out of that range. So I think I would just go another way. If this is the year for Rory, obviously it would be one among the incredible storylines or things that could happen this week. That is a career Grand Slam's right up there. It'd be great for golf, great for Rory, obviously, if it happened. But I'd go another way in the top of those top 10 players. I guess he's now 11th. I'd lean elsewhere among the top guys.
If I told you 6 months ago that we go to the Masters and Spieth would be more of a favorite than Rory McIlroy, you would have thought I was crazy. It's wild.
So what's your opinion? You asked the question, Scott. What do you say?
Man, I want to be on so much. And it's so funny. We talk about, he's struggling so much. He still has 2 top 10s his last 3 tournaments, but it's struggling for Rory. He missed the cut at the Players. He was so bad at the Players, like putted badly, was bad tee to green, was bad off the tee. It's just a strange tournament for him and so fresh. And then afterwards he talked about, like Jeff talking about, kind of Bryson being his head a little bit. He's still, 19-1 to win. So he's not like he's any kind of, you're not getting any kind of great odds. I just like Jon Rahm and Justin Thomas more this week when I'm looking at guys kind of under 20-1.
Yeah. And 10-2 on DraftKings. That's cheap. It's a pay cut compared to DJ, compared to Rahm. Bryson is more. JT's only 400 more. I think that's actually a pretty good price. 10-6 for him. But I think you're right. Now the thing is, he got smoked by Poulter in the first round of the match play, and then he kind of recovered the next 2 days. I did like that from him.
Yeah, I mean, you like that, but I would have liked it more if he'd gone through.
Sure.
And that player I just played more competitive golf. I just would have liked to see more, but certainly he's played Augusta National enough. I mean, the course fits his game wonderfully when his game is there, when he's clicking. And he's got enough top 10s and enough and a mix of scar tissue at this place. He's done just about everything but win already in his career and still in his early 30s. So it'd be a great story. If it's a bet, if you're just placing the straight bets, I would certainly love to have a Rory ticket. But for DFS, I don't know. I'd probably just lean elsewhere.
Bryson D Chambeau tried to outmuscle the course and failed last year. He was hurt by a lack of gallery and finding his ball once, and that could be an issue again this year too. But do you think he comes in a little differently, having been humbled last fall?
Maybe. I don't know if I'd say humbled, but the way he goes about it is he's got new data to compute. And he's talking about different lines he's going to take on some of the par fours. We're filming this on Tuesday afternoon, so Bryson spoke this morning, talked a little bit about the lessons from November and some new opportunities. I mean, I believe he said it, paraphrasing, that he sees that he can do some things differently than the rest of the field. He's just got to take advantage of of the power that he has and put himself in those spots to have easy approach shots to set himself up for birdies that will be tougher for the rest of the field. So this course is there for Bryson, but he hasn't really come close in this one yet, but certainly he'd be on the short list of guys where you would say if it clicks, A game, good enough to win and good enough, to win to do a Dustin Johnson from last year, win going away if it all comes together for him this week.
Did you guys see the clip of him on the range with Vijay Singh just sitting there watching him laughing?
No.
Yeah, I did.
Classic. He's like not only swinging off his ass, but like hitting a ball every 12 seconds. Like it was the weirdest thing. Like he'd swing as hard as he could and all of a sudden call for a ball and hit again. Like I think the quote was someone said on Golf Channel that Fred Couples hit less balls in an hour than Bryson hit in 4 minutes on the range. It was just so. Yeah. And VJ's sitting there smiling, sitting next to him, just laughing at what a sight the whole thing is.
I just said I don't like to pick players who are searching for it at the driving range, but I don't even really know what to do with a player who's doing speed training on the range. In front of that
It was wild. It was wild. It was wild to see.
Yeah. And it's funny that VJ's the guy that's watching that and laughing because VJ's known as being a driving range animal. That's one thing about VJ is no one ever accused him of not working on his game.
It was just wild. I mean, he's literally just sitting there swinging as hard as he can and hitting as many shots as he can. And the whole thing was crazy. It was funny.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Justin Thomas, we last saw him. He got knocked out of the match play, but before that in a stroke play tournament, he won the Players. You got to like that. He's 10-6 here on DraftKings. Where do you see him on DraftKings on odds? He's 12-1 on golfodds.com. He's got to be pretty high on the odds to win, though.
Yeah, I see him at 11.5 to 1, same odds as Spieth to win on DraftKings. And he and Rahm are my two favorite guys at the top, the guys that I'll be playing in DraftKings. And I can't bet both of them, really, because the odds are too high. But I think Jon Rahm wins this week, so he's probably going to be my bet. But Justin Thomas, last 11 events, 10 top 15s. It's an absurd stat. He had one miscut in that stretch. He played really badly in one tournament, but 10 top 15s. That's competing every single week. 6 top 10s. He had huge tee to green approach numbers of the Players when he won. It's hard to argue against JT at all. The only thing I would do is the only reason I argue against him is I like Rahm a little more. I think it's Rahm's time. He hasn't won a major yet. I think it's the time this year. He finished 7th here in 2020, 9th in 2019. 4th in 2018. He had the baby, so the risk of him walking off the course on Sunday in the back nine with the lead is gone. 6 events in 2020, 4 top 10s. Hasn't missed a cut since June, and that was the first event past COVID. I just feel like everything is building right now for Jon Rahm to win the Masters this week.
It's all he's on my short list as well. Scott, we've been kind of locked in the last few weeks.
We got to make that pay off now that we got.
I know. I think Rahm. For so long, especially early in his career, it was like a temperament thing where you could almost set your watch to the first bogey Jon Rahm makes on the weekend at a major is that's it. That's the detonation, and that's the end of his time contending. And that has been improving steadily, especially in the last couple of years. And you can't help but wonder, if fatherhood and there's the statistical case and then there's the cosmic case, right? Of here it is, a new phase in life and a new perspective. And everything Scott said, all those stats are great. But I just think there's the intangible factor now with Rahm as well that makes him very, very tempting this week as a pick.
Scott is going to provide the statistical case every week, and Jeff's going to provide the narrative every week. So I like that.
I like that too.
Any guys in the elite tier that you're clearly fading that you don't want any piece of?
I won't. It's more that I just like other guys more, but I won't. I'm not going to have any Bryson this week. I think that he could obviously win, but I think you have the guys in that mix. He's the one that has a lower floor for me. I just, like Jeff said, he hasn't quite got it done here. I'm going to take some interesting lines, and maybe he figures it out. But of the top guys, he's probably the one I'm staying away from. I won't be betting Spieth. I think Spieth's a play more on DraftKings for me. But at 11 to 1, it's usually hard when a guy wins the week before anyway. I tend to not go for back-to-back winners, but I just think those odds are a little bit too low when I put him up. Same odds as JT, same odds as Rahm, shorter than Rory. So betting wise. Bryson and Jordan would be the answer for me on that one.
I would probably fade Bryson and Rory for reasons we described. The one guy I'm not sure what I want to do with yet is Koepka. Coming back from a knee injury, newly engaged. We found out thanks to a social media announcement.
Narrative.
That ring was insane, by the way.
Yeah, ring is. Yeah, it's I don't know if it's a ring or more like a satellite for your finger, but it's I don't know. And there's like an intangible there where I feel like he's a little surly, a little grouchy on social media. He's kind of tweeting about being kind of overlooked heading into this week and a little disrespect. I just think he's a guy who plays well with a chip on his shoulder, manufactured or otherwise. I just don't know. I don't know if you want to come back to the Masters like this, fresh off a break. It's a tall order. I will probably plug him into a couple of my DFS lineups, but I don't know that I would go all in on, other tickets or that sort of thing. He's an interesting guy for me this week.
It's funny because Jeff mentioned earlier, we all were there in 2019, and from walking that course, I think it worries me a little bit with a guy coming back from a knee injury. I mean, it's the undulations and up and down walking that course for 4 days. That can't be easy on a dude with a bad knee, right?
Well, he's not carrying his bag.
There's that.
I just think it's more rust than anything. I just don't know what is his preparation level for the variety of shots that Augusta demands. But he's got a great track record already at the event. And, it wouldn't be a shocker for me if he was the guy on Sunday. And I feel like he is a little bit overlooked as we head into this.
Yeah. He's going to play 9 holes every day in his preparation was what he was saying too. I mean, he has a history of like shocking, surprising us when we're not expecting it. And at the same time, he also has a history of underplaying his injuries. And so that makes it a little bit difficult. At least we know for sure he had surgery this time. So that's kind of a big deal. Yeah, he's a tough call. I'll tell you the guy I'm struggling a little bit is Xander. He had such a great run of top 10s, top 15s. Missed one cut, happened to be the TPC though. It's like at 10,000, you really it precludes you from getting. If you go with him, it precludes you from another guy in the 5 digits, or it costs you another guy in the 9,000s. Really, the opportunity cost of using him is pretty high, but he used to be so darn consistent, and especially at Augusta.
Yeah, I think there's just other top 10, top 12 players that just seem to have more going for them in this moment. Xander for a long time looked like he was going to be the guy. He was just knocking on the door every major championship, it seemed like. But I don't know. I just find more compelling reasons to pick to lean towards other players more so than a fade against Xander personally.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, you're just picking great players up here, and when I'm going to do that, you have to find little things that when you push you guys. And for me, it's just Xander hasn't played very well the last couple tournaments. Maybe the form's not quite as good as the other guys. He was unbelievably good like the 8 tournaments before that. So I mean, he was on fire. But he lost shots total in WGC Mexico and in the Players, missed the cut there. There's probably enough there the last 2 events, and he could certainly come out here and do really well. But I'm just going to take the other guys in the top range just because they're playing a little better at the exact moment.
Scott, you're building your DraftKings lineup. Is it imperative to get a top guy, or can you build a competitive lineup using maybe multiple guys in the 9s and 8s instead?
I think the great part of majors is we have so many good players, and there's actually playable guys in every range. I mean, we're talking about Corey Connors at 6,900. We don't get that at Valero. Like, we're looking at guys that we haven't heard of, we know of, but like we know they're not a really good chance to miss the cut. And a key here is there's not as many players. A lot more percentage of guys make the cut at Augusta than other tournaments. So getting 6 of 6 is a must. I think you can build both ways. You can go with a couple guys in the 9s, a couple guys in the 8s, and get in the 7s. You can really build a nice balanced lineup. But with the available names in the 6,000s, I think in most lineups I'll probably have at least one guy over 10. You can even build like a Rahm Thomas or a Rahm Bryson, whatever 2 guys you wanted up there. You could do 2 of them and get some guys in 6,000. So I think there's a lot more ways to build in a tournament like this than there are normal weeks, which I really find fun. I think the majors not only more fun from watching and they just mean more, but more fun because there are a lot of different ways to attack this. Whereas a lot of these middling tournaments, like everybody kind of plays the same stars and scrubs, the same balance based on the salaries, and I think you can build a lot of different ways this way, which is fun.
See, I don't know. I feel more inclined to just go stars and then the best track records I can find in that lower range. There's so many great players that because the field's smaller, these guys in the 6,000, Matt Kuchar's like 68 or 60. I mean, he'll, what he did earlier this year and his track record at Augusta. It seems like he backdoors a top 6 every other year at the Masters. I think it's a great.
Use your hole in one on Sunday to do it.
Yeah, whatever it takes. He'll get that T6. But I think he's a great addition. There's those type of guys that you can plug into a lineup to give yourself that second star, at the top of your daily fantasy lineup. I think it's just take advantage of that. Take two horses and then find a way to build with that around it. And you don't even have to. I mean, like a Bernhard Longer is fun, and it seems like he's 50-50 to make a cut every year. But I just don't think you even need to go down that road because there's enough guys, just another rung up the ladder, priced competitively that you can use to round out your lineup. So I don't know. I think the Masters. I mean, yeah, there's different ways you can build it, but I think in a way, because the field's smaller and because there's so much data and there's so much we can spot these trends. I don't know. I think in a way it's the most predictable in some ways. You can just kind of narrow things down faster and easier. You can take 30 guys and just kind of set them on the shelf that they're gonna play their 2 rounds and they're unlikely to continue. And so now you're already working with this list of about 40 guys who could win. And I think the other majors just it's a deeper pool than that you're looking at. So I think it's something to embrace. It makes this exercise fun. It also makes those last 2 or 3 guys you pick in these daily fantasy lineups. That's where you're going to win this pool. But I think not having a top 10 guy or even 2 of them, I think you're overthinking it at that point.
So another factor is experience at this course. It's been mentioned before, like Daniel Berger didn't get to play here last year. He didn't qualify, although I think he has at other times. Victor Hovland didn't play here last year. However, in 2019, he was there as an amateur and made the cut. So there is some experience. But Joaquin Niemann hasn't missed a cut all year. 12 for 12 in cuts this season. Only 7,400. But then you realize, okay, he's never played Augusta. How does that kind of cross him off your list? Or would you use him still as a building block, trying to fit him in and make some other things fit?
I'm out. It's just the data is the data. I mean, Joaquin Niemann's a great player, and he may be a big factor this week. And I'm wrong, but you gotta take some stands somewhere. And I look at those trends, and it just no first time Masters invitee has won since Fuzzy 79. Yep. You'll see that stat tossed up on the broadcast when Niemann's leading on Thursday. But it's just you got to kind of play the odds, I think, and it just that's one example of a data point we have with Augusta that I would say you might as well take advantage of it. Now, of course, maybe the way to make money is yin when they yang, but I would say for me, that's just using the information and just making my pool of contenders simpler and easier to get through.
He's not a cross-off for me. I think the prices just keeps him in it for me. 7,400 is really cheap. He did play here, though, right? He missed the cut in 2018?
Oh, I didn't scroll far enough on him. My bad.
Oh, I thought this was his first time. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he missed. He shot 76-77 in 2018.
I gotta rewind that one.
It wasn't a very good performance. And I don't know how much he learned of the course, considering he was all over the place. He was +9. But
no, that counts. That counts. You got a full week of practice.
That's the thing, right? You get all those practice days and the greens and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I just think that a player this good at 7,400. I mean, he missed it in November due to COVID, but struggled around the green a bit the last few weeks. It's kind of the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause. You don't want you want guys that are really good around the greens right now, and he had been struggling last few weeks, but made 14 straight cuts. He was competing for wins in January and February. He's still in my player pool. 7,400, maybe not quite the slam dunk that normally would be for someone like this, just based on the fact that the lack of experience and a little bit of struggling around the greens, but definitely my player pool at 7,400. I think he makes an interesting play for a guy that's that good at that price.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll throw another one there that I know hasn't played there. Zalatoris is another guy in that pod, if you will, and he's 7,300. He also is not the greatest around the greens. 29.4 putts per round. That's pretty low on the list, or high on the list, depending on how you want to characterize it. He putts more than most people. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and it's funny because I had him listed here, and then I wanted to ask Jeff Ritter about the not playing there and how much that impacts him, because obviously he's playing great, but he's definitely the guy that has not played at the Masters, and I was curious what Jeff thought, and I think he answered that when he was talking about Niemann. But I mean, the talent's there, but like you mentioned, the putting has been a little all over the place, and he's kind of been in contention, but hasn't quite got over the top. In the PGA, it's been a lot tougher than Korn Ferry, but I mean, so talented. I just think I'm finding other guys in the range I'm probably going to use over a guy playing his first time.
Yeah, so Zalatoris, Robert McIntyre, Bobby Mack, match play sensation, and then Carlos Ortiz are your three pros playing for the first time. All immediate fades for me. I will happily eat crow on Monday morning if I'm wrong, but you gotta draw some lines somewhere.
Bobby Mack's putting stats aren't good either, so that's another reason to kind of just knock him off as a possible cheapie. And that kind of speaks to one thing, like how you go about building a lineup. I think it's got to be pretty helpful to find guys to cross off, find reasons not to, just narrow your options a little bit, especially when it's such a loaded tournament. It's got to be pretty helpful to say, okay, I don't want these guys. Now, who do I want as my lower price guys? Who are my, sometimes you build from the bottom instead of building from the top, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, finding those guys in the 6,000s enables you to know what you can do at the top. I mean, if you find two guys in 6s you really like, that's something you can go, 2 10s or a 10 and 2 9s or whatever it may be. And I wanted to ask you guys about two guys in the 9s, though, before we get really cheap. Patrick Reed at 9,300, Tony Finau at 9,100. Where are you guys on them right now? Because I really like Reed this week. Last 4 events, 3 top 25s and a win. If it does get a little windy, get a little bit of rough weather, Jeff mentioned some rain coming. He's so good around the green. I kind of like his chances if we get a little bit of not perfect weather in Georgia this week.
Yeah, I mean, Finau, we can talk about every time he's in a tournament at this point he's way past due. And he's been right there at Augusta as well. He's another guy you could say he's done just about everything but win. But I like Reed a lot. I think just exactly you nailed it, Scott. I think if the weather is worse, the worsening weather would be better for Reed, who can really have his, he can win a jacket on a short game. It's what he did last time in 2018 when he won. It was really chipping putting that separated him from the field, his ability to get up and down from everywhere and anywhere. So yeah, Reed is a tempting guy. I just kept going off that 10,000 line I just kept going with top 10 players. And then I just found myself stars and scrubs with this one, because I don't find the scrubs to be very scrubby when a lot of them have the track records they do at the Masters. But Reed of the two, he's one that, I kind of find myself pausing as I go down the list. Like, do I want to try to get him in a few more of these lineups? As it does sort of feel like maybe it's his time to make some noise again. Also, he's playing well. All the reasons you said, Scott.
I'll be in at 35-1 this week on Reed. I like those odds as you throw a dart on that bet, because I think that I like him, and right behind him, Matthew Fitzpatrick's 40-1 and playing exceptionally well right now. Are you guys in on Fitz this week?
I gotta pull up his track. I don't remember. I feel like he had kind of a mediocre track record at this event, if I'm not mistaken. I breezed through him the other day. I don't think he's got any top 10s at the Masters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Four starts this season in the PGA Tour, top 11 in all 4 though.
Okay, well, I mean, if the only way to break through at the Masters is to just break through, right? You gotta get out in front of it. I don't know. No, I don't have Fitzpatrick now, but I might give it a second look now that you've flagged him for me.
He was 46th here last year. Then he was 21st in 2019, 38th in 2018, 32nd in 2017, and then finished 7th in 2016.
Oh, he does have one top 10. Well,
yeah, he has one top 10 away back, but making cuts. He missed the cut back in 2014, his first time, but made the cut, whatever that is, 5 times in a row. I just think he's another guy, 8,100. The price seems really tempting on Fitz, both from a DraftKings play and a bet play. I think that there's a guy that's playing exceptionally well right now.
Indeed. I'll tell you the guy I like in the 7,000s. Had 3 really good rounds last year at the Masters and not so much on Sunday, and that's Abraham Answer. We talked about him last week a little bit. He was okay, 23rd, but he's just a good golfer. And at 7,400, I feel pretty good, A, about him making the cut, and B, being on that leaderboard a little bit here and there. He may not win, and maybe you want a guy that you know that you think has a better chance to win. I can see that, but I feel like especially he's like a cash game building block for me.
That's a good pick. I got one other one for you that's you wonder if it's starting to get late early, but I think Jason Day, 7,500. How many tops 10s in this event does Jason Day have? It feels like it was every year there for like a solid 8 or 9 years. I bet he's got 5 or 6 out of the last 10 years. I don't know that usually when I get to that level, I'm still thinking I want to make a case for a guy who could win. And I'm not sure it's Jason Day's time to win, but it feels like it might be Day's time for another T4, which you're making money on that pick at that point. So, but there's a lot. This 7,000 to 8,000 tier is tantalizing. Sergio playing well. Paul Casey, Louis pops up every couple of years. He's all of a sudden he's there on Sunday in one of these. So there's a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities with lineups in that tier.
I think Casey's going to be the most popular guy in this range. I think 7,700, he's going to be really high percentage. 6 events this year between the PGA and Euro Tour. Hasn't finished worse than 12th and had a win on the Euro Tour. He was top 10, top 6 at the Masters every year from 2015, 2016, 2017. I think he's been really popular. Might be a spot where I go some different guys just because there's so many guys in 7,000 I like. You mentioned Louis. Jeff was talking about putting earlier. He's number 1 in the field in shots gained putting over the last 36 rounds. So you want a guy that's stroking it well in the greens. It's Louis right now.
Which is the first guy you'd think of course, right? No.
Yeah, right. Granted, he may withdraw after 27 holes, but you always run that risk with Louis a little bit. But at least the major, like you got to think that it won't be one of those WD weeks. But he finished 23rd here in November at 7,500. I think he's a guy that might go a little bit under the radar just with so many, with Neiman right there and with Casey right there, some guys right around him. I think maybe you get a good percentage ownership on Louis.
All right, let's dip into the super cheap level, into the 6,000s. We've talked about Corey Connors already. Is there anybody else? Matt Kuchar's at 68. Who else? Anybody else jump out to you that's like, hey, that's a pretty good value?
I have 3 names down here besides Connors. So if you wanted to go double 6s, or if you wanted to pivot off Connors to get his percentage ownership, gain some game theory there. I think Jason Kokrak at 6,800 is interesting. The last 3 events, he's been top 10 in all 3, very quietly. He hasn't won, but the top 10 3 in a row. He's made 7 straight cuts. I think Siwoo Kim, if you're playing in a tournament, is really interesting. He won at Amex in January. Top 25 last 2 weeks at Players in Valero. Top 30 his last 3 appearances in the Masters, so has played well at Augusta. He's a guy that he could another guy has a WD risk and could miss the cut. And if he blows up, he usually blows up big. But a guy who could, has a little bit of win equity, which you don't get down here at 6,700 very often. And my last guy at 6,600, because it comes up really high in some of the models I ran, is Ryan Palmer. He's played 7 events in 2021, 7 made cuts, 4 top 20s, top 25 in this field in tee to green, shot gained, putting, birdie opportunities gained in the last 36 rounds. So someone that's just really, really solid right now. I don't think he can win this tournament, but at 6,600, if he finished, T13, that's a really good spot to be able to get some more expensive guys in. So those are the guys. Those 3 and Connors are the ones that I'm really focusing on under 7,000.
I love Connors. I like the Siwoo pick a lot for all the reasons you said. I would not be afraid to mix in Ian Poulter into some lineups. Veteran again, just go with experience. Go with a guy who's playing well, feeling good. I would mix in some Poulter, and then just for a pure YOLO pick, someone's got to talk about Phil. You got to just say, if you want to just have fun this weekend, you might as well throw a dart there. And there's certainly on paper very little reason for optimism, which, as we said at the top, is often when Phil Mickelson strikes. So you never know. And if he's going to make any noise in any major this year, this is the one, and this is the week. So
the year is 2027. Jeff is still bringing up Phil.
I got to get Phil in that lineup one more time.
So let's look at what's your, like, when your first lineup went together, what did you put together, Scott?
I've been playing around with it. I haven't really fully set a lineup yet, but when I did it, it was Rahm at the top, and then one guy in the 9,000s, probably Reed, and then I was getting cheap with Neiman, and then 2 guys in the 6s, maybe Connors and Siwoo, or Connors and Palmer, and then I have to do the math there, but probably that gives me one guy in the low 8, probably Fitzpatrick somewhere in there. I don't know if that fully adds up, but that was kind of what I was doing. A 9 and a 10 and an 8, and then a couple 6s and a 7 was kind of how I was building it. One guy in the 8s I want to ask you about before we jump out. What are you guys on Hideki right now? Not playing great, but made the cut at Augusta the last 6 years. He's been top 25 times in that stretch. Not playing well, but has been top 30 the last 4 weeks. He's a bad putter, but putts better here than he does compared to other places. So if you're looking for a silver lining there, 8,300 is about as low as you get for Hideki, but it's hard to get on board. But man, I want to.
8,300 is a good price. I don't know. Like I said, I just kept my lineup pattern has been like stars and scrubs. Like the most common thing I do is start JT Spieth, Rahm, 2 of those 3, and then I just start building. That's been how I've been approaching this, and I end up with a lot of Corey Connors at 6,900. Matt Kuchar is ending up in a lot of my lineups. That's kind of where I'm going with this. But that is if you're going to take the mid-tier strategy that you were talking about, Scott, that's a great price. It's someone with that major championship pedigree, no wins, but it's close, and he's played Augusta enough. He's shown it, so he could certainly pay off at that price.
If I'm shopping in that price, I'm taking Cam Smith at 8,200 instead.
Two top 5s here in the last 3 years. It's certainly likes the course.
Yeah, or Fitzpatrick's at 81. I mean, I want both of those over
Scheffler 84.
But and your point there is good. I just wonder if everybody's going to take Smith and Fitz, and maybe you get Hideki at like a really low ownership for the talent. But you have to pick your spots, and it's tough. It's hard not to go Smith or Fitz just right there. You're right.
Yeah, it is, and that's this thing. And you're if you're doing lots of lineups, then I think it's a little bit different.
For sure.
I tend to do like 2 or 3. So they're scarce for me. So the spots are scarce for me. So I probably won't spend a whole lot on that. Any other things you want to point out? Any other players you want to discuss before we talk about all the Masters swag that we're wearing and any war stories we have?
So I wanted to bring up one prop for you guys. I just thought it was really fun. The top Oklahoma State finisher. We got Hovland at plus 110, Answer at plus 175, Wolf at plus 275. Crazy that school has spit out all those players, and Ricky Fowler's not even in the tournament. But I kind of like Answer there at plus 175 to win that group.
Yeah, you're getting some pretty favorable odds. I like it. Sure, that's a fun prop. It just shows what a great program they have.
Are there any long shots you guys like to throw a couple bucks on? Anybody like over 50 to 1 that you guys are dropping? You think it's worth a couple bucks on?
I mean, I would. What is Phil's odds? I mean, it's crazy. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, if you're right,
he is 175 to 1.
Yeah, I have $5 for that. If someone wants to take it at those odds, absolutely.
At the exact same price, I actually like Ryan Palmer at 175 to 1. Also, I think he's a guy that
175. Oh, okay, all right. I got $5 more.
Yeah, I think that a few bucks.
That's
on
how
Palmer,
they get you. Yeah.
I think a few bucks on Max Homa at 100 to 1. It makes a little bit of sense. Didn't play well his last couple tournaments. The match play and then the missed cut before that, was playing really well before that. And we talked a lot about Corey Connors. Corey Connors 81. Jeff mentioned 100 to 1 out there. I think he's a guy that could win the tournament. Sergio 60 to 1. I mean, what's great about majors, you get these big names at big price. I mean, Finau's 35 to 1. Reed's 35 to 1. Fitz is 40 to 1. I'll definitely have some money on some of those mid-range guys. It's fun. There's so many guys at the top. You can take really good name players at 35 and get some really good prices on guys.
Yeah, it's a fun exercise, and sometimes you get Danny Willett.
As I know well, sometimes you do get Danny Willett. That was a very fun year. I still think Jordan Spieth for the 2 balls into Rays Creek.
Yeah.
What odds did you get on Willett that year?
He was much longer earlier on, but I was in Vegas for the NFBC baseball draft, so I had him at 50 to 1. So I won. I had $20 on him at 51. So it was a nice ticket to take in when I was back in Vegas in September. It was a good time.
Yeah. Okay. So Scott and I went. The only year we've gotten to go is 2019. Scott won the lottery for the last practice round in the par 3 tournament. That was a fun day. He's wearing his hat. I'm drinking from my Masters water cup. Oh, water cup. But it's water today at least. But Jeff, you had a story about your shirt.
Oh, it's nothing big. It was just my logo looks a little different from your guys. I don't know if the camera picks it up. This is the Augusta National Golf Club logo. It's not the Masters logo. This is what they sell in the pro shop at Augusta The media was for a number of years. I don't believe they have access anymore. I had heard there was a problem of merch from the pro shop showing up on eBay.
Nice.
Entrepreneurial journalists.
Journalism's a tough racket. I get it.
Have you ever won the chance to get to play the next couple days that some of the journalists do? There's a lottery for that, right?
There is a lottery. I've attended the Masters as a credentialed media member from 2011 to 2019, and there were 2 years I wasn't able to enter because of Monday commitments, but I've not won. So I think I'm 0 for 7 in 9 credentialed. Yeah, it's like I'm starting to become the Charlie Brown of the press center of that thing. So. But I always bring my clubs because they don't do rentals at Augusta National. So I've got the clubs like tucked in the rental car, drag them through the airport, drag them back home.
You don't find out if you won ahead of time. So you just have to like be ready.
They draw on, I believe it's Friday around noon. You find out, if I'm not mistaken, and then there's a meeting on Saturday or Sunday midday with all the. After the cut, so it's Saturday, Sunday. Everybody who's won gets called into the press room, and they get kind of the rundown of. They get their specific tee time, their group. They're allowed to show up. I think it's an hour, maybe it's a half hour, probably an hour, so they can warm up. 1 hour before your tee time, like you can show your pass the gate, and you're in, and you get to use the range, have breakfast, get dressed in the locker room,
That's awesome.
And play around, and then grab a snack and go. So that is it's really like I've had a lot of fun in 9. Actually, I went to one other one at a previous job, so I've been to 10 Masters. I've had a lot of fun, but that is like that's like my white whale.
Yeah.
Is that lottery one of these years. Hopefully next year, they'll be back to a fully credentialed press center, and I look forward to getting back and throwing my ticket in the fishbowl again to see if it gets pulled out.
Maybe you got to like warm it up a little bit so they can feel it a little bit better there, or something like that.
Yeah, like fold it like an accordion, right? So you have more edges to grab. That's what. But no, it's just like you can't fold it. You just like it's like a ticket you tear off of your media badge and just.
How many winners are there?
I believe it's 28. So 7 foursomes.
They don't like put you with a member then. They just let you go, or do you?
Yeah, it's you're with other journalists and or other credentialed media members. They have different buckets. They'll have like a photography bucket and international journalists, and they'll pick tickets from different buckets to get a kind of a wide representation of. I
think you should call yourself Jeff Van Ritter and the Dutch bucket there.
There's some really cool like next day write-ups of the journalists who got to play and then wrote about playing the course. There's every year there's always 1 or 2 really good pieces about guys going out there and playing. It's really fun.
I think I like those stories better.
You get caddies. I believe it's still the Sunday pins, if I'm not mistaken, and you just grandstands are up and. One of these days, and I'll come on and tell that whole story, obviously happily whenever it happens. So, other than that, I've had a lot of fun and done just about everything else you can do. I think as a credentialed member within the rules of the club. It's been a good run.
Right. So, just as a reminder for everyone to sign off, our winners are Scott.
I'm going John Rahm win this tournament, 12-1 odds. I think it's time.
Good pick. Justin Thomas is going to win, though.
I was going to say JT as well. So, yeah. That means Rahm's got a better chance because if the 2 Jeffs are saying it, it's a good pick. So, all right. 1 Rahm and 2 JTs. We're really going chalky here, but that's all right. And we'll just say, and 1 underdog that's going to be in the top 5.
Underdog in the top 5. I'm going to go. I'll go Ryan Palmer and Corey Connors will be my top 5 bets. You can actually bet top 5s in majors, which is fun. And then if you want to go a little bit deeper and you want a winner bet, I'd go Reed and Matthew Fitzpatrick at 35 and 40 to 1. I will have some money in on both those guys to win.
I'll say Kuchar through the back door.
And Phil.
Top 5. I like the Connors pick a lot also.
Very good. All right, that's going to do it for Gaming Golf Masters Edition. Please, as always, subscribe, rate, and review. Please give us a bunch of feedback. Tell us what you want to hear from us. Tell us what you want that help us set us apart from other podcasts you may listen to. So we appreciate you listening. Good luck in your Masters pools, and take care. Have a great day.